with Motorway Lighthouse in Scotland and Nubasaki Lighthouse in Japan.
You able to share?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ksenia, would you unshare so that oh, it's already sorry.
Yeah, welcome to the Lighthouse Twinning Project. This is going to be a shared presentation of my illustrious colleague, Kinji can doesn't start coughing. So the two of us doing it. And I'd also...
Sorry, I forgot to introduce
Oh,
yourself.
no, it's fine. Sorry, Gillian Burns, Northern Lighthouse Board. I'm on the left-hand side there. And there's quite a few of you in this room that know me anyway. Yeah, welcome to the Lighthouse Project. And I'd also like to say thank you to Yu Namoto, who is online. He's done a lot of effort for this project to get it to where it actually is. So thank you very much, Yu. Can you go to the next slide, please? So just a little bit of an overview of what we're going to talk about today. So we'll just go through the background of how it came to be a project, a little bit about Stevenson's and Brunton, who a lot of you in this room may know and a lot of you may not know, because they are the foundation to what we're going to talk about. Mulla Galloway Lighthouse, which is in Scotland, and Nubasaki Lighthouse, which is in Japan, the twinning of it, and what has actually happened so far, and then press release about what's happened, conditions of the lighthouse twinning, potentially for a guideline going forward. So, heritage lighthouses. So, they're national, international, and this whole project came about through a chance conversation that our colleague that many will know, Hideki Noguchi, our Chief Executive of the Northern Lighthouse Board, in January 2020 at the GNSS workshop in Edinburgh, and there was a poster board in the room that talked about Brunton and the connection with the Stevensons. And I think the conversation just went, we need to do something about this. Obviously, COVID intervened, so here we are 5 years later, progressing it. So it goes from Japan to Scotland and everywhere in between. So I think you can sort of see how the national level is touched there, but because they're both national authorities, and also the international, because we're going to two sides of the world. So we have very many lighthouses, and you'll see them in a later slide, that are very similar in looks. So that's kind of where this all started from. So if you go on to the next slide, please. So Stevenson's and Brunton. So there's a lot of text there. So you'll see that the images is of Robert Stevenson, who has, from this 1791, was involved in the Northern Lighthouse Board, and there was 4 generations of the Stevensons up until 1937 that were instrumental in building 82 of our lighthouses, and they're all mostly are masonry built lighthouses that took years in construction. And as many of you all know, that these structures are in adverse conditions and adverse elements. So, but Richard Henry Brunton in the bottom image there, he was a Scottish civil engineer that worked with the Stevenson family, and in 1868, the Japanese government was wanting to establish lighthouses, and the Stevensons and Richard Henry Brunton made up that they were going to take Richard out to Japan for, you can see, about 8 years. And in that time, he established 26 lighthouses, 5 beacons, and 2 lightships. I think we should maybe have kept them in Scotland, because we would have had more lighthouses. If you can see the difference in 26 lighthouses opposed to 82 over 2 centuries. And because of his contribution, because not only did he build lighthouses, he did a lot of training and set up institutions for learning in Japan. And he's called the father of Japanese lighthouses. And you'll see some, if you go on to the next slide, you'll see some of the images of lighthouses that he was responsible for. And I'll defer to my colleague from naming the lighthouses because my pronunciation of them is not good. So what can you just say what the names are of each of the lighthouses?
Okay. So the left on top is Iriasaki Lighthouse, and the bottom is Shionomisaki Lighthouse, and right top Omaesaki Lighthouse, and the last one is Tsunoshima Lighthouse.
So I look at these images because I've been to about 130 of our own 208 lighthouses, and I see our lighthouses in those images. There's a slight colour change in that we use black and a sort of beige as well as white, but I see the infrastructure there, I see that very much in my home country. So if you go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so getting on to the individual lighthouses in the Twinning project. So this is Mull Gallery Lighthouse, and again you'll see very similar style, similar shaped tower. The only difference visually is that we're using the beige, which we call Oasis, as a colour, and black for the domes. The majority of domes in Scotland are black on top. So this is based in the most southerly point of the Scottish mainland. It was built by Robert Stevenson and first lit in March of 1830, a wee while ago. It has got an air receiver type fog signal that is not a functioning ATON, but it is operational, and the Kelvin engines are used to produce the compressed air. And it is sounded on an intermittent basis if the weather conditions are suitable, because it's not sounded when there's fog, to avoid confusion for the mariner. So it's just a heritage piece that is sounded only at certain times of the year, and also there's environmental conditions for bird nesting that they won't sound it for when the birds are nesting, etc. The lighthouse was automated in 1988, and the non-operational buildings, so the actual building that the Northern Lighthouse Board own and operate is the tower and the quarter deck where you see the small chimneys at the bottom where the beige line is. That's the only infrastructure that we own and operate. The rest of the infrastructure you see there, the keepers' cottages, engine rooms, etc., they are owned and operated by the Mull Gallery Trust, and that was set up in 2012. But between 1988 and mid-2000s, sorry, the cottages were available to Northern Lighthouse Board staff to use as holiday homes. So they were functional as a facility for any of the staff. But since the trust was established in 2012 and they took ownership of the buildings, they've spent a lot of time and energy making the whole area into a visitor attraction, just for the heritage. And it's, because it's at the end of a headland, it's everybody goes to the end where they can see the sea. And in fact, there's a lighthouse there. They took the opportunity to have a cafe and other visitor attractions museum. And as you can see there, it's open for the public from Easter to the end of October. And you can see the lighthouse characteristics there. Not much of interest, apart from it's a white light. Yeah, so that's Mull of Galloway. So I'll hand over to Kinji.
Okay, thank you. From Japan Coast, and I'm introduced in Iwozaki Lighthouse. Iwozaki Lighthouse was built in 1874 in Kyoto City. And the lighthouse was designed by Richard Henry Branson. As Gillian mentioned, he is known as the father of Japanese lighthouses. And this lighthouse was the first brick-made lighthouse in Japan, and equipped with a fast-order Fresnel lens. There's also a foghorn located at the same site. And, the lighthouse is open to public, and it's one of the most visited lighthouse in Japan. This lighthouse is even considered a symbol of Choshiki. Choshiki is the place that this lighthouse is located. In November 2024, last year, Scotland and Japan signed the world first ever lighthouse twinning agreement. This partnership celebrates our shared heritage, as both lighthouses have Scottish origins. And we expect that this twinning agreement will have a positive impact on local communities, especially in terms of tourism and maritime history. As part of the cooperation, local exhibit will be set up at both lighthouses. And after the signing ceremony, the twinning was featured in the media in both countries. On the left is an article from BBC in the UK, and on the right is from Yomiuri, which is Japan's most widely read newspaper. And if we consider lighthouse twinning, maybe we need to define why those lighthouses are twins. In other words, we need to consider common conditions between two lighthouses. I will show some examples of such conditions. For example, similar geographical features, such as the most northern point of nation, or standing on the tip of a long peninsula, or something like that, or similar origin, such as established by the same engineer or architect, using same optics of same manufacturers. And similar architectural features could be a condition. The similar environmental features, such as located in a national park or in local area, it could be considered such a condition. So maybe we can consider a variety of conditions. So I'd like to emphasize two key points in order to promote the lighthouse twinning. That is understanding and involvement of local communities. And this slide is related to our input paper.
Sorry to interrupt a minute. Sorry, I think there's someone on. Is it next to?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. This slide shows our input paper, which proposes the development of a guideline for lighthouse twinning. So I leave the detailed discussion of that for the input paper session. That could be next afternoon, maybe. So that's end of our presentation. And thank you very much for your kind attention.